Hello, I'm Crickets and welcome back to I Have a Story. I've been airing stories about how our state is not being funded and taken care of correctly, and a big aspect that I've talked about is our prison systems. And now there's a post that recently came out. This is a prison guard's wife who has made this post that validates what I've been saying. Now, obviously, I have friends that are in these systems that I already talked to. That's how I'm able to bring you information about, like the judge that I heard the story about his hit and run, and it took the news almost a year and a half later to come out and present the real story, and they're still only presenting part of it. And part of that is because our state covers things up and won't give them the information. So this woman comes out and made a post about how her husband has to work multiple shifts and they're making them work illegal shifts, which what I was recently told, I don't know if this is true or not, but I was recently told that instead of fixing these problems, Gretchen Whitmer just decides to change the laws and make it legal for these people to work multiple shifts instead of getting them funds and aid and help so they're not having to work overtime. This is not safe in our prison system. I've been told that we have prisons in our state that are under 30% capacity for corrections officers. There's less than 30% of the workers that they need to be operating these prison systems. But yet, I look at things that took place, like I aired the story about that man who was beaten in prison. How many of those guards might have been working double, triple shifts, even having drugs introduced into their system, which she talks about in this post that she created? And she even talks in here about, you know, these people are forced and mandated to work a third shift in order to maintain the prison systems to have faculty there. That is not safe. I'm being told now that we have prison workers who are CDL drivers and transport inmates, and they're working and driving beyond the legal capacity of what they're allowed to be driving. I question, because I used to be a truck driver, even though share more of my life and my experience with you. I have been driving semi-trucks, over size, over length, over width, over height, overweight, hazardous materials, like when I worked and I talked about working at the chemical plant. I went through so much federal schooling with that company, and they wanted me to get my CDL. Like, you can do everything. You're already certified in every department. The only thing we haven't got you into is driving truck. I don't want to drive truck. I can't. I cannot sit on my butt. I fall asleep. And when I used to drive truck, unfortunately, none of these officers ever, and again, I question a whole lot in our country, you know, were those officers on drugs or overworked and just didn't want to do their job, lazy, I don't know. But I used to drive truck with no CDL. I did it for over roughly 30 years, not as a full-time job, but as a fill-in for weeks at a time when CDL drivers quit. And it doesn't matter how much product you produce. If you can't distribute it, you can't make money. And there's big money in our trucking industry. It's one of the biggest industries that they've stated that if terrorists could shut down one industry in our country, it would be the trucking industry, because then nothing can get dispersed. But I used to drive truck, and I'd pull over to the side of the road and run laps around my truck because I'd just start falling asleep behind the wheel, and I couldn't do it. I cannot sit. I sit for too long, and my body says, all right, must be time to go to rest and take a nap. I have to be up and moving. Part of where my disabilities are so crippling to me mentally and to me physically, because I can't just sit. I get up and move, and I do things I shouldn't be doing, but I hurt myself even more, but I can't sit and just do nothing. So one time, I'd run laps around my truck, had a cop pull up behind me. What are you doing running circles around your truck? I'm trying to stay awake. I'm trying to get my body moving again so it doesn't want to fall asleep. Oh, that's a good idea. I'm glad you're doing that. Have a good day. And he drove off. Wait. Ooh, I could have really gotten in a lot of trouble there. but he never checked my license. So I have to question how their CDL drivers today have to have logs and log their mileage and log their hours, and the only thing we could come up with as an explanation is that they're forging the books and falsifying the information on record. Or Gretchen maybe in our state made that all legal, changed the laws to make it legal so that we don't have to follow the restrictions that kept our country safe. That's why we have laws. But do laws exist at all anymore? I'm look throughout my whole channel. I mean, really, I don't know as a constitutional law-abiding citizen what I'm even supposed to do anymore, because I want my life back. I want my kids back, and it's all been illegally taken from me, and I've done all the right things that I was supposed to do. I know the games to play. I don't play them, but is that wrong of me? I do things the right way, especially being the person with all the evidence and the other person stating I don't have any, and I had more than the courts even want to look at. What's going on here? Our state is claiming that Gretchen, I've posted about the EMS director here, our local EMS director, stating that our state will not pay them for all the visits that they've made to these prison systems. And it's a lot of money and a lot of visits, and they're running out of money and don't know how they're going to be able to continue if they don't get funded. But where's all our money in our state going? Why is Gretchen so worried about in her recent post that we need to raise more taxes because after 7 years we still haven't fixed the roads, and we're still on this we're going to fix the roads kick? What difference does it make if we have nice smooth roads if we can't, like our EMS director can't send her ambulances down them anyways? Doesn't have the money for fuel, can't keep the maintenance and repairs on their vehicles or the medical equipment to even help people. How? Also, in Gretchen's recent posts that have come out and things that have been aired on the articles that she has spoken to, she wants to raise money to fix our roads and to fund our DNR. We have severe problems here. Why is she not talking about funding our prison systems and taking care of our EMS system and keeping all the entities that are supposed to keep us safe? Why isn't she not there? I have not heard a single word from her in all the reports and everything that I've researched and read through and listened to. There's nothing about what's actually needs to be taken care of in our state. We need to fix the roads, and we need to fund the DNR even more money. Let me tell you something about the DNR. I think Doge needs to come into our DNR and fix the DNR problem. So much money is wasted in our DNR. Almost every DNR officer I know, they just sit on their butts and do nothing. I can't say almost every single DNR officer I know. They don't do squat. They get a federal salary, federal benefits, they get a brand new truck, insurance on that truck, gas in the truck, maintenance on that truck, which just the truck alone is almost worth a job in America today. But they don't do anything. They sit and do nothing. Let's take a fish counter, for example. Our fish counters here have been reporting fish declining, almost nothing. Now we're down to nothing. What has our DNR done to fix the problem? But yet we're paying all this money for nothing to be done and for people to sit and do nothing. That's just a complete waste, and yet we have more important things to worry about, like our prison systems, our medical emergency response. Those are more important than our DNR or even our roads. But she's not fixing any of it. So where's all this money going? Well, I have theories, and I'll be sharing more in the future on that one. But I've got this on your screen here, and it says in here that, they're mandated to work up to 30 shifts. I think, let me try and find it. I think it's right there. This is not safe. I had also talked about the drugs that are going on. And down here, she talks about how, the bottom paragraph, she talks about how the inmates are smoking rat poison, and there's other drugs being introduced. I've heard of officers testing positive for other drugs that the inmates are getting laced into their cigarettes that are brought into the prison. So our prison workers are not only getting overworked they're also getting drugs in their system. This is a very dangerous situation. A couple years ago, I talked to our prison system coordinator, and she was putting out posts, we're hiring for $18 an hour. So I talked to her and I said, how do you expect to get people to come and work in a prison environment for $18 an hour when they can go work at McDonald's for $15, $16 an hour and have a job that is not nearly as what the job is working in a prison system? I know a lot of the people who are working in our prison system are doing it because they care, they have the heart, they have the pride for our country and our state and want to keep it safe. But that can only go so far, and as our future generations keep getting that taken away from them, how many more people are we going to have with the pride and the heart and the care enough to stand up and want to do those jobs? Again, why is Gretchen still putting out headlines about we're going to fix our roads and we're going to fund the DNR and we're going to fund our schools even more money? Well, they already have so much money and they're getting, especially off the marijuana tax. That was just a giant hundreds of millions of dollars bonus to our state that came out of nowhere. But yet now, even after that, our governor wants to keep raising taxes on everything she can possibly raise taxes on, even after she just got hundreds of millions of dollars in bonus. And 7 years later, still has admitted she hasn't done her job because now she's just come out within the recent months. We need to make even more money so we can fix our roads because they're still not fixed. So she admits she failed after 7 years. What is going on here in the state of Michigan? I've had commenters and people talk to me. I thought Michigan was a good state. I didn't know there was all this corruption. Well, I've uncovered even more corruption going on here in our state of Michigan. So please stay tuned, and I'll be airing those stories soon. I want to live in a good state, a clean state, a state that runs efficient and effective. And I don't want to sit here and have to question where is all of this insane amount of money that was already being made going. And then the marijuana tax, now hundreds of millions of dollars more. Where's all that money going? And now she wants to raise taxes on so much more on everything that she can. Where is all this money going? Well, I have my theory, and we have history from what she has already done and what has been uncovered to where money has been going. That just can't help but to put my head down that track and that avenue. That's where that money's going. Because I certainly don't see it in the world around me being a positive thing. All I can see is the negatives that she has done. So I'll be making more videos coming up about what she is raising taxes on in our state, which is everything she can possibly raise taxes on that I'm aware of. I didn't even know she could raise taxes on some of this stuff. And I'll be making another video where I think that money is going. But this is a major, major problem in our state, is our corrections facilities, our EMS services. This is very dangerous. When's the next incident going to take place? Because this has opened a door just completely wide open for major problems and incidences to take place. That who's going to get blamed for those? Well, it certainly should be our governor, who is not even addressing these problems, let alone taking care of them.